The nightmare is over, but I had to watch my best friend die to end it. It's been 10 years, and I still can't stand the sound of an ice cream truck. Not the cheerful kind you hear in the suburbs. I'm talking about a specific tune, a tinny, off-key rendition of Pop Goes the Weasel that sounds like it's being played on a broken music box. It's the sound of something pretending to be joyful. A predator wearing a smile. For a decade, our town, Harmony Creek, was quiet. We patched over the holes in our history, pretended the missing kids were just tragic accidents, and let the grass grow over the unmarked graves in our memories. We convinced ourselves it was over, that we'd killed it. Then, last Tuesday, I was walking home from the garage, grease under my nails, the smell of gasoline on my jacket. The sun was setting, bleeding purple and orange across the sky, and for a second, everything felt normal. Peaceful, even. That's when I heard it. Faint, so faint I thought it was a memory. The first few notes of that goddamn song drifting from the woods that border Miller's Field. My blood went cold. My boots felt like they were nailed to the pavement. I looked up and I saw it. Just one. A single crimson balloon bobbing lazily against the twilight. It wasn't floating down the street, it was just hanging there, watching. And pressed against the other side, so pale it was almost translucent, was a face. A little boy's face, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. I threw up right there on the sidewalk. 10 years of peace, gone in 10 seconds. It was back. Mr. Giggles was back. And I knew, with a certainty that felt like a shard of ice in my gut, that it was hungrier this time. My first call wasn't to the cops. What would I say? I called Kaz. Casimir Rostova. He'd been the first to see it all those years ago, the one who figured out what we were dealing with. He left Harmony Creek the day after we thought we'd finished it, swore he'd never come back. He picked up on the second ring. I didn't even say hello. It's back, I said, my voice cracking. Silence on the other end. Not surprise, just a heavy, resigned quiet. Then I heard him take a long drag from a cigarette. I'll be there by morning. We met at the old library, the four of us who were left. Me, Kaz, Ivani, and Mateo. The place smelled like decaying paper and dust. Kaz looked like shit. The city had carved new lines into his face, but his eyes were the same. Old, haunted, and burning with a cold fire I hadn't seen since we were kids. Ivani was clutching a leather-bound folio, her knuckles white. She'd become the town's unofficial historian, as if burying herself in the past could keep the real monsters at bay. Mateo just looked sick. He never really recovered. None of us did. It's stronger, Kaz said, his voice a low gravel. He didn't need to elaborate. We could all feel it. A weight in the air, a wrongness that made the hairs on your arms stand up. The old tricks won't work. Ivani opened her book, pages rustling like dry leaves. The lore calls it a tulpa, a thought form, but it's more than that. It's parasitic. It doesn't just feed on fear, it metabolizes it, turns it into matter. It's not a ghost, it's a cancer that walks. Within a week, the town started to unravel. It was subtle at first. A child's swing moving on a windless day. The faint sound of that music box tune heard through a baby monitor. Whispers of a tall, thin man in mismatched clothes seen at the edge of the woods, a man whose smile was too wide for his face. Then, the disappearances started again. First, little Gracie Miller. All they found was a single red balloon tied to her bedpost. We knew we couldn't wait. Ivani's research pointed to a binding ritual, more complex than the one we tried as kids. It required a circle of salt and ash, artifacts from our own childhoods to act as anchors, and an incantation spoken in a language that felt like swallowing glass. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. We chose the clearing in Miller's Woods, the same place we'd confronted it before. The air was thick and electric, buzzing with a malevolence that was almost physical. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches like skeletal fingers. Above us, 3 red balloons hovered, each with a child's face trapped inside, their expressions a permanent mask of terror. We laid the circle, our hands shaking. I put down my old pocket knife. Ivani, a silver locket from her mother. Kaz, a faded photograph of his family. Mateo hesitated. then placed a small, hand-carved wooden bird on the ground. It was the last thing his little sister made before she was taken by that thing 10 years ago. As Avani began to chant, the world outside our circle warped. The woods dissolved into a swirling vortex of shadows and grinning faces. The music box tune grew louder, twisting, distorting, clawing at our sanity. But the circle held. A faint, silver light pulsed from the salt and ash, keeping the darkness at bay. Then it played its new trick. A voice, clear as day, cut through the noise. A little girl's voice. "Mateo? I'm scared. Can you help me?" It was his sister's voice. We all froze. Mateo's face crumpled. "No," he whispered, his eyes wide with horror. "It can't be. Please, Maddie," the voice cried, sounding like it was just outside the circle. "He's got me. Don't leave me again. It's a trick, Mateo. Stay in the fucking circle," Kaz screamed, but it was too late. Blinded by grief and a decade of guilt, Mateo took one stumbling step across the saw line. The darkness didn't just take him. It erupted. A geyser of writhing shadow shot up and consumed him in an instant. There was no scream, just a wet, tearing sound, and then silence. The wooden bird on the ground split in two. The ritual shattered. The 3 balloons above us pulsed with a triumphant, bloody light. We ran. We fucking ran like scared kids again, the laughter of that thing echoing behind us, a sound that scraped the inside of my skull. The next few days were a blur of grief and whiskey. Mateo was gone. The ritual had failed. And Mr. Giggles was stronger than ever, gorged on our failure on Mateo's soul. We were sitting in my grimy apartment, the air thick with stale cigarette smoke and despair, when Kaz finally spoke. "It didn't attack us," he said, staring at the wall. "Not really. It tricked him. It used his pain against him." He looked at us, his eyes hollow. We were chanting, trying to use brute force. We were fighting it on its own terms. And it fucking loved it. It wanted us to be scared. A thought sparked in my mind, ugly and terrifying. What if we aren't? Kaz nodded slowly. What if the only way to starve it is to stop feeding it? Our final stand wasn't in the woods. It was on Main Street, right in the center of town, under the flickering streetlights. We didn't bring salt or knives or ancient books. We just stood there, waiting. It didn't take long. The music started, a discordant melody that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Shadows stretched and coiled from the alleyways. And then it emerged. It was taller than I remembered, a horrifying scarecrow of a thing stitched together from darkness and malice. Its limbs were too long, moving with a jerky, unnatural gait. Its face was a white mask of painted-on joy, but its smile was a gaping black wound, impossibly wide. It was holding a single red balloon. Mateo's terrified face was pressed against it. "Back for more?" it rasped. The voice, a chorus of grinding static and children's whimpers. "I'm still so very hungry." It lunged, not at us, but at the world around us. The pavement cracked, the streetlights exploded in a shower of sparks, the windows of the shops distorted into screaming faces. It was throwing everything it had at us, trying to get a reaction. A flinch. A scream. Anything. Kaz took a step forward. "We're not afraid of you anymore," he said, his voice quiet but steady as a rock. Avani and I stood with him, side by side. I focused on my breathing, on the solid feel of the ground beneath my feet. I thought of Mateo, of Gracie Miller, of all the kids, but I didn't let the fear take hold. I let the anger burn it away. We stood there, 3 broken people against a nightmare, and we gave it nothing. It shrieked, a sound of pure frustration. The illusion flickered. The balloon with Mateo's face began to fade, the crimson color draining away. The thing was getting smaller, more transparent. Its power was based entirely on our terror, and we were cutting off its supply. It was starving. It looked from face to face, its painted smile twitching, and its gaze landed on Kaz. With a final desperate roar, it lunged, its shadowy hand solidifying for just a second into a shard of jagged black glass. Kaz didn't move. He didn't even try to dodge. He just stood there and took it, right in the chest. The impact was sickening. I saw the light go out of his eyes. But he didn't scream. He didn't even cry out. He just looked at the creature impaled on his chest, a strange, bloody smile on his own lips. And then he did something I will never, ever forget. He laughed. It was a broken, gurgling sound, full of blood and pain, but it was a real laugh. A final, defiant fuck you to the thing that had haunted our lives. The creature screamed, a sound I can't describe, a sound of utter agony and disbelief. Its power wasn't just cut off, it was reversed. Kaz's courage, his complete and total lack of fear in the face of death, was like poison to it. The thing dissolved, imploding into a cloud of foul-smelling dust that the wind carried away. The balloons all popped at once, their captured souls sighing into the night. Kaz crumpled to the ground. Avani and I were at his side in a second, but we knew. His shirt was soaked in blood, a black viscous liquid that didn't look human. Kaz, Avani sobbed, holding his hand. He looked at me, his eyes already glazing over. Tell them we won, he rasped. Then he was gone. Harmony Creek is safe. The laughter you hear on the playground now is real. The shadows are just shadows. We won. But some nights, I sit on my porch and I stare at the woods, and I can't feel the victory. I just feel the cost. I feel the empty space where Mateo and Kaz used to be. The quiet in our town isn't peaceful. It's the quiet of a graveyard. And sometimes, when a car backfires or a kid's toy plays a tinny song, my heart still seizes in my chest. Because we learned how to kill a monster. But nobody ever tells you how to live with the ghosts of the people you had to sacrifice to do it.